Captain Jake Martinez sat in his chair on the bridge of the spaceship UES Discovery. He looked at his coffee cup and frowned. It was empty again. This was his 4th cup today, and it was only 9 in the morning. Space travel made him drink too much coffee, but there was not much else to do during long trips between stars. The ship had been flying around the Kepler 440 to star system for 3 weeks now. Their job was simple and boring. They had to make maps of all the rocks and planets floating around the star. They also had to check what metals and materials were in the asteroids. It was the kind of work that made Jake wish he had stayed on Earth and become a farmer like his father wanted. Jake looked at his data pad. The crew reports were all the same as always. Nothing broken, nothing exciting, nothing to worry about. He scrolled through the list of tasks for today, scan 12 more asteroids, check the gravity around the 3rd planet, and collect rock samples from the asteroid belt. Just another normal Tuesday in space. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at the science station. Her job was to point the big scanners at things and write down what they found. She was good at her job, but like everyone else on the ship, she was getting bored. 3 weeks of looking at rocks and empty space was enough to make anyone tired. Amy looked at her screen and saw something strange. The numbers were changing in a way she had never seen before. She checked her equipment twice to make sure it was working right. The numbers kept changing, even bigger and bigger every minute. Captain, Amy said, turning around in her chair. We are getting some weird readings from the star. Jake did not look up from his data pad. He was trying to figure out who should clean the bathrooms next week. Weird how? He asked. Amy looked at her screen again. The numbers were still going up fast. Well, sir, it looks like the inside of the star is falling apart. The fire inside is burning much faster than it should. Jake nodded but kept looking at his bathroom cleaning schedule. Is that bad? Actually, sir, Amy said, checking her numbers one more time, I think the star is about to blow up. This got Jake's attention a little bit. He looked up from his data pad and raised one eyebrow. Blow up? Like explode? Yes, sir. Like a really, really big bomb. The biggest bomb you could imagine. Amy turned back to her screen and did some quick math. Based on what I am seeing here, we have about 14 minutes before the whole star explodes. Jake thought about this for a moment. 14 minutes seemed like plenty of time to finish what they were doing. He had been in space long enough to know that you should always finish your work before dealing with other problems. Okay, Jake said, going back to his data pad. We can handle that. Just make sure you finish scanning those asteroids in the belt first. Command gets angry when we come back without complete data. Amy stared at her captain. She wondered if he understood what she had just told him. Sir, the star is going to explode in 14 minutes. Shall we maybe leave? We will leave when we finish our job, Jake said. He took a sip from his empty coffee cup and made a face. When he remembered it was empty, and while the star is doing whatever it is doing, try to get some good readings from it. The science people back home love unusual data. Amy turned back to her screen and shook her head. She had been working with Captain Martinez for 2 years, and he was always like this. Nothing seemed to worry him. Last year, their ship had flown through a dangerous radiation storm, and Jake had used the time to reorganize his music collection. What Jake and his crew did not know was that 3 different alien fleets were watching them from far away. The aliens had special ships that could hide from human scanners. They had been following the UES Discovery for several days, waiting for the right moment to attack. The aliens were not from one planet or one government. They were from 3 different groups that usually fought each other. But they all agreed on one thing: humans were dangerous and had to be stopped before they spread to more star systems. The first group was called the Hegemony. They had big, powerful warships and soldiers who loved to fight. The second group was the Consortium. They were smart and sneaky, and they liked to make deals and trick other people. The third group was the Crimson Empire. They were old and wise, and they thought they were better than everyone else in the galaxy. These 3 groups had made a special plan to destroy the humans. They had worked together to build a giant weapon that could make stars explode. It had taken them months to get the weapon ready and aim it at the right star. They thought that when the star exploded, it would kill all the humans in the system and show the rest of the galaxy how powerful the 3 groups were when they worked together. The alien leaders were sure that the humans would try to run away as soon as they saw what was happening to their star. They expected the human ship to send scared messages asking for help. They thought the humans would beg for mercy and promise to leave alien space forever, but the humans were not running away. The UES Discovery was still flying around, pointing its scanners at rocks and doing the same boring work it had been doing for weeks. The aliens watched in confusion, as the human ship seemed to ignore the fact that their star was about to explode. On the bridge of the Discovery, Jake finally got up to get more coffee. He walked past Amy's station and glanced at her screen. The numbers were definitely getting bigger, and there were lots of pretty colors showing the star's energy levels. That does look interesting. Jake said, "Make sure you record everything. The folks back home will want to see this." Amy watched her captain walk away toward the coffee machine. She looked back at her screen. 12 minutes until the star exploded. She started recording everything, just like Jake had asked. If they were all going to die in 12 minutes, at least the scientists on Earth would have some good data to study. Admiral Zethkar stood on the command deck of his massive warship. His 6 arms moved quickly across the control panels as he watched the main screen. The human ship was still there, still doing the same boring work it had been doing for hours. The star behind it was getting brighter and brighter as it prepared to explode. Zethkar was the leader of the hegemony fleet. He was tall and strong, with thick gray skin and for yellow eyes. His people were famous across the galaxy for being the best fighters. They had conquered dozens of worlds and destroyed many enemy fleets, but today, Zethkar felt confused and worried. "How much time is left?" he asked his weapons officer. 8 minutes until the star explodes, sir," came the reply. "The weapon worked perfectly. The star's core is falling apart just like we planned." Zethkar nodded, but he kept staring at the human ship on his screen. It was moving slowly through the asteroid field, scanning rocks and collecting samples. It looked like the humans were having a normal day at work. "Surely they must know what is happening," whispered Velthar, a young hegemony warrior who worked at the communications station. "Their machines cannot be that old and broken." On another ship nearby, Commander Rixnell of the Consortium was having the same thoughts. Her long, snake-like body was wrapped around her command chair as she watched her own screens. The Consortium ships were smaller than the hegemony warships, but they had better sensors and computers. "This makes no sense," Rixnell said to her crew. "Our readings show that the human ship scanners are working fine. They could see the star getting ready to explode, so why are they not running away?" Her science officer, a thin creature with big eyes and green skin, looked up from his station. "Maybe they are scared and cannot think clearly. Some species just stop working when they know they are about to die. Or maybe," said another officer, "they are so stupid that they do not understand what they are seeing." The third alien fleet belonged to the Crimson Empire. Their ships looked like giant crystals floating in space. High Inquisitor Gorth was the oldest and wisest of the 3 alien leaders. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors when he had different thoughts. Right now, he was a dark blue color, which meant he was thinking very hard. "No," Gorth said in his deep, rumbling voice. "Watch their energy readings. Look at how their ship is moving. They are not scared, and they are not stupid. They know something is happening to their star. Then what are they doing?" asked one of his officers. Gorth's crystal body turned from blue to purple, which meant he was worried. "I do not know, and that frightens me." Back on the human ship, Captain Jake Martinez had returned to his chair with a fresh cup of coffee. He was reading reports from other parts of his ship. The kitchen staff wanted better food supplies. The engine room needed new filters. Someone had broken the exercise bike in the gym. Normal ship problems that needed a captain's attention. "Captain," Amy called from her science station, "I am getting really amazing data from this star explosion. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our textbooks." Jake looked up from his reports. "Good work. Make sure you save everything. The university professors will love to study this." Lieutenant Danny Wright sat at the communications station. He was a young man who had joined the space service to see exciting things. So far, this trip had been very boring, but the exploding star was finally something interesting to watch. "Sir," Danny said, "should I send a message to Earth Command? They might want to know about the star." "Sure," Jake said. "Tell them we found a star that is blowing up and we are collecting good scientific data. Ask them if they want us to stay and watch the whole thing or come home early." The 3 alien fleets listened to this message. They had broken the human communication codes weeks ago, so they could understand everything the humans said to each other. The alien leaders could not believe what they were hearing. They are asking permission to stay and watch, Velthar whispered. They want to watch their own death. This is impossible. Zethkar said. His four eyes were wide with shock. No creature in the galaxy is this calm about dying. What kind of beings are these humans? Commander Rixnell was thinking the same thing. Her snake-like head moved back and forth as she tried to understand what was happening. Maybe they have some kind of secret weapon that can protect them from the star explosion. Or maybe, said her science officer, they have done this before. Maybe humans are used to stars exploding around them. This idea scared the aliens even more. If humans were used to surviving star explosions, what other terrible things could they do? The three alien fleets had spent months planning this attack. They had built their biggest weapon and used all their best technology. If this did not work, what would? High Inquisitor Gorth changed from purple to bright red, which meant he was very afraid. We may have made a serious mistake, he said quietly. On the Discovery, Jake's crew continued their work. Chief Engineer Pete Collins called from the engine room to report that everything was running smoothly. Cook Lisa Park asked if anyone wanted extra sandwiches for lunch since the exploding star was making the day more interesting than usual. Dr. Helen Chang, the ship's scientist who studied aliens and strange life forms, had set up a special camera to record the star explosion. She was excited because she had never seen anything like this before. This is going to be great. From my research, she told her assistant, we might learn new things about how stars work. In the ship's recreation room, some of the off-duty crew members had gathered to watch the light show through the big windows. The star was now so bright that they had to wear special glasses to look at it safely. Beautiful, said Ensign Rick Murphy, a young man who had just finished school and joined the space service. But should we be worried about the radiation and the shock wave? The older crew members laughed. Kid, said Chief Collins over the intercom, this ship has been through much worse than one little star explosion. Remember that neutron storm we flew through last year? Now that was scary. 6 minutes until the star exploded. The human ship continued its slow, careful work. The aliens watched and waited, becoming more confused and frightened with each passing minute. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. In all their years of war and conquest, they had never met an enemy that treated certain death as a minor inconvenience. Maybe, Velthar suggested quietly, we should think about running away. Admiral Zethkar turned all four of his eyes toward the young warrior. The hegemony does not run from anyone, he said, but his voice was not as strong as usual, and his hands were shaking as he gripped his command chair. Captain Jake Martinez was having problems that were much more important than exploding stars. Chief Engineer Pete Collins had just called to report that the toilet in Section C was making strange noises again. Cook Lisa Park was complaining that the tomatoes in the garden room were too small and did not taste good. These were the kinds of problems that really bothered Jake. Jake walked down the hallway toward the engine room. He wanted to see the broken toilet for himself. As he walked, he could hear his crew talking and laughing in different rooms. Everyone seemed happy and relaxed. No one was worried about anything. Captain, came Amy's voice over the ship's speakers. The star just went full supernova. We have about 4 minutes until the shock wave hits us. Jake stopped walking and pressed the button on the wall to answer. Thanks, Amy. That is good timing. How are the recordings coming along? Great, sir. I am getting readings that no one has ever seen before. The science department back on Earth will be very excited. Excellent work, Jake said. He started walking again toward the engine room. Danny, send another message to command. Tell them we are getting amazing footage of a star collapse. The university people will love this stuff. Lieutenant Danny Wright was at his communication station on the bridge. He had been in the space service for 3 years, but he had never seen anything as beautiful as the exploding star. The colors were incredible, and the energy readings were like nothing in any textbook he had studied. Should I mention that we are in the blast area, sir? Danny asked. Jake thought about this as he walked. Oh, good point. Yes, add that information. And ask command if they want us to stay here for the shockwave data or if we should head home early. Danny started typing the message. He was not worried about the shockwave. The Discovery was a tough ship, built for exploring dangerous places in space. A little star explosion was not going to hurt them. In the ship's observation lounge, many of the off-duty crew members had gathered to watch the show. The star had grown into a huge ball of bright plasma and energy. It was casting rainbow colors across the ship's metal walls. Everyone had their cameras out, taking pictures and recording videos to send to their families back on Earth. "This is so beautiful," said Dr. Helen Chang. She was drawing pictures of the star explosion in her notebook. Helen was the ship's expert on alien life and strange space events. You do not get to see something like this very often. Ensign Rick Murphy was still new to space travel. This was only his second mission away from Earth. He raised his hand like he was still in school. Excuse me, but should we not be worried about the radiation and the shock wave?" The older crew members started laughing. Chief Collins, who was fixing something nearby, patted Rick on the shoulder. "Kid, this ship has been through much worse than a little star explosion. Do you remember the neutron storm we flew through in the Vega system last year? Now that was exciting. What about the time we got caught in that black hole's gravity field?" Added engineer Sarah Kim. "That was scary. This is just pretty lights." Rick felt a little embarrassed. He was still learning what was normal and what was dangerous in space. Apparently, exploding stars were normal. Meanwhile, the three alien fleets were watching everything in complete shock. They had expected the humans to panic and try to escape. They had expected to see the human ship destroyed when the star exploded. Instead, the humans were taking pictures and acting like they were at a fun show. Admiral Zethkart could not believe what his sensors were telling him. "The shock wave will hit them in 3 minutes," he said to his crew. "Why are they not running?" "Maybe," suggested Velthar. "Their engines are broken and they cannot escape." Zethkart checked his readings. "No, their engines are working fine. They are choosing to stay." On the consortium command ship, Commander Rixnell was having similar thoughts. Her snake-like body was tied in knots from stress and confusion. "This makes no sense at all," she hissed. "No species willingly stays near an exploding star." Her science officer was reading energy signatures from the human ship. "Commander, they are not just staying. They are actively collecting data. Their scanners are working overtime to record everything." "Recording data while they die?" Rixnell asked. "What for?" High Inquisitor Gorth of the Crimson Empire was the most confused of all. His crystal body had turned bright orange, which meant he was experiencing emotions he had never felt before. Gorth was thousands of years old and had seen many different species across the galaxy. He thought he understood how all life forms behave when faced with death. "This changes everything we know about humans," Gorth said in his deep, crystal voice. "If they are not afraid of star explosions, what are they afraid of?" Back on the Discovery, Jake had reached the engine room. Chief Collins showed him the broken toilet, and they talked about how to fix it. The problem was not serious, just annoying. While they talked, the ship's lights flickered for a moment as the star's energy reached them. "Shockwave incoming," announced Amy over the speakers. 2 minutes until impact. Jake nodded and continued examining the toilet problem. "Pete, do we have spare parts for this?" "Sure do. Captain, I can have it fixed in an hour." "Good. No one wants to deal with broken toilets on a long space mission." In the kitchen, Cook Lisa was preparing lunch for the crew. She had decided to make extra sandwiches since the exploding star was making the day more interesting than usual. Some crew members had requested boxed lunches so they could eat while watching the light show. "This is like a picnic with fireworks," Lisa said to her assistant. "We should do this more often." Dr. Chang was still in the observation lounge, but now she had set up special instruments to measure the radiation and energy coming from the star. Her equipment was recording everything automatically while she watched through the reinforced windows. "The energy patterns are fascinating," she told Rick, who was still sitting nearby. "The way the plasma is moving follows mathematical rules that we have only seen in computer simulations before." "Is it dangerous?" Rick asked. "Well, yes. It would kill most life forms instantly," Helen said cheerfully. "But our ship is built to handle this kind of thing. The radiation shielding and energy barriers will protect us." Rick felt a little better hearing this. At least someone was acknowledging that the situation was dangerous, even if no one seemed worried about it. 1 minute until the shock wave hit. The three alien fleets prepared to watch the destruction of the human ship. They had their best sensors ready to record the moment when the mighty Discovery was torn apart by the exploding star. But as they watched, something impossible happened. The human ship did not try to escape. It did not send out emergency signals asking for help. Instead, it turned slightly so that its main sensors were pointing directly at the incoming shock wave. They are positioning themselves to get better readings, whispered Velthar. They want to collect more data. Admiral Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. He felt afraid of an enemy that was not even trying to fight him. The supernova shock wave hit the UES Discovery at exactly 2:30 in the afternoon, ship time. Captain Jake Martinez was in the mess hall, finishing his grilled cheese sandwich and reading a book about farming techniques on Mars. He had been thinking about retirement lately and wanted to learn about growing vegetables in space. The ship shook a little bit, like a small earthquake. The lights went off for about 3 seconds, then came back on when the backup power system started working. Jake looked up from his book and waited to see if anything else would happen. When nothing did, he went back to reading about tomato farming. Captain the bridge. Came Amy's voice through the speakers on the wall. She sounded excited and happy. We are getting fantastic data from the shock wave. The sensors are picking up particle formations that we have never seen before. Jake finished his sandwich and wiped his hands on a napkin. He had been hoping to finish the chapter about soil preparation, but duty called. He walked back toward the bridge, passing crew members in the hallways who were all talking excitedly about the readings they were getting. When Jake reached the bridge, he found his crew busy at their stations. Everyone was working hard to record and analyze all the new information coming from the exploded star. The bridge was full of energy and excitement. "Sir, this is incredible," Amy reported from her science station. Her screen was covered with colorful graphs and numbers. The supernova created temporary holes in space and time. We are detecting at least 17 new types of tiny particles that no one has ever seen before. Jake nodded and sat down in his captain's chair. That sounds important. The physics professors back home will be very happy. They are going to go crazy over this data. Amy agreed. This could change everything we know about how stars work and how space is put together. Jake was pleased. Bringing back important scientific discoveries always looked good on his service record. "Excellent work, everyone. What is our ship's condition?" Chief Engineer Pete Collins answered over the communication system from the engine room. "Hull strength is at 97%. Captain, we lost some paint on the left side of the ship, and the coffee machine in my department is making that weird noise again, but everything else is working fine." "How long to fix the coffee machine?" Jake asked. This was important. His engineering crew could not work properly without good coffee. "Give me 2 hours, sir. I need to replace some small parts." "Good. Make that your top priority." While the human crew celebrated their successful data collection and worried about coffee machines, the 3 alien fleets watched in complete silence. Their most powerful weapon had failed. Not only had the human ship survived a direct hit from an exploding star, but the humans were treating it like a minor research opportunity. Admiral Zethkar stood frozen at his command station. In his 40 years of military service, he had destroyed entire planets and conquered star systems. He had never seen anything survive a weaponized supernova at close range. It was supposed to be impossible. "This cannot be real," Zethkar whispered. "No species survives stellar detonation. No one." His young officer Velthar was staring at the tactical display. The human ship's energy readings showed that it was not only intact, but was actually in better condition than before the explosion. "Sir, they seem to have used the energy from the shock wave to recharge their power systems." "They what?" "The explosion gave them more power, sir. Their ship is now running at 105% efficiency." On the consortium command ship, Commander Rixnell had tied herself into such tight knots that her crew was worried. She might hurt herself. "This is not possible," she hissed. "The weapon was perfect. Our calculations were exact. That star explosion should have destroyed everything within 10 light minutes." Her science officer was running diagnostic tests on all their equipment. "Commander, our weapons worked exactly as designed. The star exploded with the correct amount of force. The shock wave had the right energy levels. Everything was perfect. Then why is that human ship still there?" "I think," the science officer said quietly, "we may have seriously underestimated human technology." High Inquisitor Gorth was experiencing something new and terrifying. His crystal body was flashing between different colors so quickly that his crew could not keep track of his emotions. Red for fear, orange for confusion, purple for deep thought, and colors that had no names for feelings that the Crimson Empire had never experienced before. "We must reconsider everything we know about these humans," Gorth announced to his officers. If they can survive our greatest weapon without even trying to defend themselves, what else can they do? Perhaps, suggested one of his advisors, we should try to communicate with them. And say what? Sorry we tried to kill you with an exploding star. Back on the Discovery, the crew was getting back to their normal routine. The excitement of the supernova was wearing off, and there was still work to do. Jake had received new orders from Earth Command telling them to complete their survey of the asteroid belt before coming home. Captain, Danny said from the communication station, I am getting some strange signals. They are not from Earth Command. What kind of signals? Well, sir, they seem to be coming from those three groups of ships that have been following us around for the past week. They are trying to contact us using our own communication frequencies. Jake raised an eyebrow. He had noticed the alien ships but had assumed they were just curious about human exploration activities. Many alien species like to watch humans work, though most of them were too shy to make contact. What are they saying? Danny listened to his equipment for a moment. Sir, it sounds like they want to surrender to us. Surrender? Jake was confused. What did we do to them? I am not sure, sir. They keep talking about something called the Great Stellar Weapon and asking for mercy for their civilizations. They seem to think we made the star explode as some kind of demonstration. This finally got Jake's full attention. He sat up straighter in his chair and looked around at his crew. Everyone on the bridge was staring at him, waiting to see what he would do. They think we blew up the star? Jake asked. Yes, sir. They are offering to give us control of their governments and pay us tribute in exchange for letting their people live. Jake thought about this situation. He had joined the space service to explore new worlds and make maps of star systems. No one had ever taught him how to deal with alien civilizations that wanted to surrender to him for things he had not done. Well, Jake said finally, I suppose we should talk to them. Put them on the main screen, Danny, and someone find the first contact procedures in the computer. We are going to need them. The main screen flickered and showed three very different alien faces. All of them looked absolutely terrified. Jake had never seen such frightened expressions before. Not even on his nephew's face when he got caught stealing cookies. Greetings, mighty humans, Admiral Zethkar began. His voice was shaking so much that the translation system had trouble understanding him. We humbly ask for mercy. Your demonstration of power was noted and understood. We surrender without conditions to your superior strength. Jake looked at Amy, who was trying not to laugh. He cleared his throat and tried to sound official and diplomatic, right? Well, this is unexpected. I am Captain Jake Martinez of the United Earth ship Discovery. I think there might be some kind of misunderstanding here. We did not blow up your star. The three alien leaders looked at each other with expressions of confusion and terror. That was somehow even greater than before, but the stellar detonation. Zethkar stammered. Your ship survived the explosion. Oh, that. Jake waved his hand like he was brushing away a fly. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Great data collection opportunity. But we did not cause it. Stars do that sometimes, you know. It is just natural stellar evolution. The silence that followed Jake's words was so long and complete that he started to wonder if the communication system had broken down. The three alien leaders on the main screen stared at him with expressions that looked like they had just been told that gravity worked backwards. Finally, High Inquisitor Gorse spoke. His crystal voice was barely louder than a whisper. You survived a supernova by accident. Jake scratched his head and looked around at his crew. Amy was covering her mouth to hide her smile. Danny was taking notes on his data pad, probably for the official first contact report. Everyone else was trying to look serious and professional. Well, not by accident exactly, Jake said. The ship is designed for deep space exploration. You have to expect a few stellar events now, and then when you are flying around unknown star systems. Commander Rixonal's snake-like body had gone completely still. Stellar events? You mean this happens to you regularly? Not regularly, Jake replied. Maybe once or twice a year. Last time was that neutron storm in the Vega system. Before that, we got caught in a gravity well near a black hole. Space can be dangerous if you are not prepared for it. Admiral Zethkar made a sound that the translation system could not convert into human language. It was somewhere between a scream and a sob. You treat supernovas as normal space weather. Jake was starting to understand that these aliens had never seen human exploration ships before. Any decent deep space vessel should be able to handle a little stellar radiation, he explained. Our ships are built tough. We have to go places where other people cannot or will not go. Dr. Helen Chang had come up to the bridge during the conversation. She was still carrying her notebook full of sketches and data from the supernova. Captain, this is fascinating, she said quietly. These species seem to have very different ideas about stellar mechanics than we do. Helen, would you like to explain how our ships work? Jake asked. You are better with the technical stuff than I am. Helen stepped forward and smiled at the aliens on the screen. Hello, I am Dr. Helen Chang, the Discovery's science officer. Our ships use multiple layers of protection against cosmic radiation and energy events. We have electromagnetic shields, particle deflectors, and reinforced hull plating made from materials that can withstand extreme temperatures and pressure. The aliens listened with growing horror as Helen cheerfully described technology that sounded impossible to them. We also carry repair systems that can fix damage automatically. Helen continued, and our power cores are designed to absorb excess energy from external sources. That supernova actually gave us a nice power boost. Velthar whispered something to Admiral Zethkar that sounded like they eat stars for breakfast. Jake decided it was time to take control of the conversation. Look, there seems to be some confusion here. You said something about surrendering in tribute. What exactly did you think we did to you? The three alien leaders looked at each other. Nervously, finally, Admiral Zethkar spoke. We detonated your star as a warning. We thought it would destroy your ship and show you the power of our alliance. We expected you to flee in terror or beg for mercy. You blew up our star, Jake asked. He sounded more curious than angry. How did you do that? We built a quantum resonance weapon. Commander Rixnell explained. It took us months to construct and position correctly. It was the most powerful device our three civilizations had ever created together. Amy looked up from her science station. Captain, that explains the unusual energy readings I detected before the explosion. There were artificial quantum fluctuations in the star's core. Jake nodded. Interesting technology. Did you invent it yourselves? The aliens were confused by his casual interest in the weapon that was supposed to kill him. Yes. High Inquisitor, Gorse said slowly. It represents the combined knowledge of our greatest scientists. Very impressive, Jake said. Our science department would love to study how it works. Would you be willing to share the technical details? Admiral Zethkar for eyes went wide. You want to study the weapon we used to try to kill you? Well, it did not kill us, Jake pointed out, and it created some really interesting scientific data. Dr. Chang, show them your readings. Helen held up her notebook. The quantum resonance effect created particle formations that we have never observed before. It could lead to new discoveries in stellar engineering and energy production. The three alien leaders had stopped trying to understand what was happening. Their most powerful weapon had not only failed to harm the humans, but the humans wanted to study it and learn from it. This is not how first contact is supposed to work, Velthar muttered. Jake heard this and smiled. Oh, is this your first time meeting humans? We should have started with introductions and cultural exchange. Danny, give me the first contact gift. Package from storage. First contact gifts. Commander Rixnell asked weakly. Standard procedure. Jake explained. We bring samples of human art, music, literature, and food to share with new species. It helps break the ice and start friendly relations. Lieutenant Danny returned with a box full of items. From Earth, we have chocolate, coffee beans, classical, music recordings, and some books translated into common galactic languages. Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. So, let me start over. I am Captain Jake Martinez. Representing the United Earth Space Service, we come in peace and friendship, seeking to explore the galaxy and learn about other civilizations. We apologize if our presence in your territory has caused any misunderstandings. The aliens stared at him. They had spent months planning humanity's destruction. They had built their greatest weapon and launched their most coordinated attack, and now the human was offering them chocolate and asking to be friends. We tried to kill you, Admiral Zethkar said, as if Jake had not understood this basic fact. Well, you did not succeed, Jake replied cheerfully. No harm done. These things happen when different species meet for the first time. There are always misunderstandings. High Inquisitor Gorse's crystal body had turned a color that his people had no name for. You are not angry. You do not want revenge. Why would we want revenge? Jake asked. You gave us great scientific data and an interesting story to tell. When we get home, plus, Now we have 3 new alien civilizations to establish diplomatic relations with. This has turned out to be a very productive day. Amy looked up from her station again. Captain, Earth Command is responding to our earlier message. They want us to establish formal first contact procedures and invite our new friends to send ambassadors to Earth. Excellent, Jake said. He turned back to the alien leaders. So, would you like to be friends? We can set up trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and scientific cooperation treaties. Our governments love that kind of thing. The 3 aliens looked at each other in complete bewilderment. They had come here expecting to destroy humanity. Instead, they were being invited to join an interstellar friendship club. You want to be allies with people who tried to murder you? Commander Rickson asked. Jake shrugged. You tried, but you failed. Besides, anyone who can build a quantum resonance weapon probably has other interesting technology we could learn from, and we might be able to help you with some things too. 6 months later, the incident became famous throughout the galaxy as the day humans did not notice. It led to 3 major peace treaties, 17 scientific research partnerships, and 1 very popular alien comedy show called Meanwhile on Earth. Captain Jake Martinez received a medal for outstanding achievement in accidental diplomacy and was promoted to admiral. He still insisted that the whole thing was not as big a deal as everyone made it out to be. The UES Discovery was given new diplomatic quarters and assigned to the Department of Casual Galactic Relations, where Jake continued to accidentally impress alien civilizations by treating cosmic disasters as minor scheduling problems. And somewhere in the files of Earth Command, there was a mission report that started with routine stellar survey, completed successfully, collected excellent supernova data, also somehow became supreme overlords of 3 alien empires, recommend increased coffee rations for future diplomatic missions,